Hi guys. We are on to chapter 4 in Ramona the Substitute. So let's see what happens there. Have you ever had a substitute teacher? You have. I think one time we had a substitute in our class, right? So here we go. Let's see what happens with the substitute. Before long, Mrs. Quimby and Mrs. Kemp decided the time had come for Ramona and Howie to walk to school by themselves. Mrs. Kemp, pushing Willa Jean in her stroller, walked Howie to the Quimby's house, where Ramona's mother invited her in for a cup of coffee. "You better put all your stuff away," Howie advised Ramona, as his mother lifted his little sister out of the stroller. "Willa Jean crawls around and chews things." Grateful for his advice, Ramona closed the door of her room. "Now, Howie, you be sure to look both ways before you cross the street," cautioned his mother. "You too, Ramona," said Mrs. Quimby, "and be sure you walk on the sidewalk. Don't go running out in the street." "And cross between the white lines," said Mrs. Kemp. "And wait for the traffic boy near the school," said Mrs. Quimby. "And don't talk to strangers," said Mrs. Kemp. Ramona and Howie, weighed down by the responsibility of walking themselves to school, trudged off down the street. Howie was even gloomier than usual. He was the only boy in the morning kindergarten who wore jeans with only one hip pocket. All the other boys had two hip pockets. "That's silly," said Ramona, still inclined to be impatient with Howie. "If Howie did not like his jeans, why didn't he make a great big noisy fuss about them?" "No, it isn't," contradicted Howie. "Jeans with one hip pocket are babyish." At the cross street, Ramona and Howie stopped and looked both ways. They saw a car coming a block away, so they waited. They waited and waited. When the car finally passed, they saw another car coming a block away in the opposite direction. They waited some more. At last the coast was clear and they walked, stiff-legged, in their haste across the street. "Phew," said Howie, relieved that they were safely across. The next intersection was easier because Henry Huggins, in his red traffic sweater and yellow cap, was the traffic boy on duty. Ramona was not awed by Henry, even though he often got to hold up cement and lumber trucks delivering material for the market that was being built across from the school. She had known Henry and his dog, Ribsy, as long as she could remember, and she admired Henry because not only was he a traffic boy, he also delivered papers. Now Ramona looked at Henry, who was standing with his feet apart and his hands clasped behind his back. Ribsy was sitting beside him as if he were watching traffic too. Just to see what Henry would do, Ramona stopped off the curb. "You get back on the curb, Ramona," Henry ordered above the noise of the construction on the corner. Oh, look, she's testing him. So she's getting off the sidewalk and stepping forward. And there you could see Henry with his dog. I guess he's one of the older kids who direct traffic, like a patrol. Okay. Ramona set one foot back on the curb. "All the way, Ramona," said Henry. Ramona stood with both heels on the curb, but his toes out over the gutter. Henry could not say she was not standing on the curb, so he merely glared. When several boys and girls were waiting to cross the street, Henry marched across with Ribsy prancing along beside him. "Beat it, Ribsy," said Henry between his teeth. Ribsy paid no attention. Directly in front of Ramona, Henry executed a sharp about face like a real soldier. Ramona marched behind Henry, stepping as close to his sneakers as she could. The other children laughed. On the opposite curb, Henry tried to execute another military about face. That means turning around. But instead, he tripped over Ramona. "Doggone you, Ramona," he said angrily. "If you don't cut that out, I'm going to report you." "Nobody reports kindergarteners," scoffed an older boy. "Well, I'm going to report Ramona if she doesn't cut it out," said Henry. Obviously, Henry felt it was his bad luck that he had to guard an intersection where Ramona crossed the street. Between crossing the street without a grown-up and getting so much attention from Henry, Ramona felt that her day was off to a good start. However, as she and Howie approached the kindergarten building, she saw at once that something was wrong. The door to the kindergarten was already open. No one was playing on the jungle gym. No one was running around the playground. No one was even waiting in line by the door. Instead, the boys and girls were huddled in groups like frightened mice. They looked all worried. And once in a while, someone who appeared to be acting brave would run to the open door, peer inside, and come running back to one of the groups to report something. "What's the matter?" asked Ramona. "Miss Binny isn't there," whispered Susan. "It's a different lady." "A substitute," said Eric R. "Miss Binny not there. Susan must be wrong." Miss Binny had to be there. Kindergarten would not be kindergarten without Miss Binny. Ramona ran to the door to see for herself. Susan was right. Miss Binny was not there. The woman who was busy at Miss Binny's desk was taller and older. She was as old as a mother. Her dress was brown and her shoes were sensible. Ramona did not like what she saw at all, so she ran back to the cluster of boys and girls. "What are we going to do?" she asked, feeling as if she had been deserted by Miss Binny. For her teacher to go home and not come back was not right. "I think I'll go home," said Susan. Ramona thought this idea was babyish of Susan. She had seen what happened to boys and girls who ran home from kindergarten. Their mothers marched them right straight back again. That's what happened. No, going home would not do. "I bet the substitute won't even know the rules of our kindergarten," said Howie. The children agreed. Miss Binny said following the rules of the kindergarten was important. How could this stranger know what the rules were? A stranger would not even know the names of the boys and girls. She might get them mixed up. Still feeling that Miss Binny was disloyal to stay away from school, Ramona made up her mind she was not going into that kindergarten room with that strange teacher. Nobody would make her go in there. But where would she go? She could not go home because her mother would march her back. She could not go into the main building of Glenwood School because everyone would know a girl her size belonged out in the kindergarten. She had to hide. But where? When the first bell rang, Ramona knew she did not have much time. There was no place to hide on the kindergarten playground, so she stepped around behind the little building and joined the boys and girls who were streaming into the red brick building. "Kindergarten, baby," a first grader shouted at Ramona. "Pie face," answered Ramona with spirit. She could see only two places to hide, behind the bicycle racks and behind a row of trash cans. Ramona chose the trash cans. As the last children entered the building, she got down on her hands and knees and crawled into the space between the cans and the red brick wall. The second bell rang. Yep, 2, 3, 4, yep, 2, 3, 4. The traffic boys were marching back from their post to the intersections near the school. Ramona crouched motionless on the asphalt. Yep, 2, 3, 4. The traffic boys, heads up, eyes front, marched past the trash cans and into the building. The playground was quiet, and Ramona was alone. Henry's dog Ribsy, who had followed the traffic boys as far as the door of the school, came trotting over to check the odors of the trash cans. He put his nose down to the ground and whiffed around the cans while Ramona crouched motionless with the rough asphalt digging into her knees. Ribsy's busy nose led him around the can, face to face with Ramona. "Uff," said Ribsy. "Ribsy, go away," ordered Ramona in the whisper. "Ruff." Ribsy knew Ramona was not supposed to be behind the trash cans. "You be quiet." Ramona's whisper was as ferocious as she could make it. Over in the kindergarten class, the class began to sing the song about the Donzer. At least the strange woman knew that much about kindergarten. After the Donzer song, the kindergarten was quiet. Ramona wondered if the teacher knew that show and tell was supposed to come next. She strained her ears, but she could not hear any activity in the little building. Okay, so we're going to stop there, and we'll continue Chapter 4 next time.